Tom Brady signed with Fox Sports for a 10-year, $375 million contract to begin as Kevin Burkhardt's analyst, whenever he retires, whatever that is. Pretty incredible, historic, twice as much as anybody's ever been paid in media. To be an NFL broadcaster, a remarkable deal for TV Tommy.
Well, yeah, when you things haven't been going his way, eventually it shows you it's a good life lesson. You just keep swinging. Eventually the dam breaks. In all seriousness, like it was, I woke up this morning at like 6:15 or whatever and saw, I think either a Wall Street Journal guy or the Sports Journal guy had just tweeted that he was going. And clearly they all got the information from the Fox earnings call or whatever, right? The CEO said that they had signed Tom Brady. And that was like, damn, it's a pretty good get. It was clear, like, not this year, whenever. I mean, hell, people started making jokes like in 7 years, or here's a picture of Kevin Burkhardt, and they'd show like an 80-year-old. Like that was all funny. And then it gets leaked that he got $375 million. Like if you had told me, he signed like, 5 years, $100 million, just, test it out. But then you see the number, but then you start thinking about it. Honestly, it kind of makes some sense, right? Like, you want to get access to me? Do you know what Tom Brady would make on the open market, just speaking to like Apple or Coors Light or Ford? Like, I mean, he's one of the great champions in the history of the world. And then you start thinking, like, who are his comps? To me, his two comps in American sports are Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. They are so rich that they couldn't be bought for this. Like, Tom would, honestly, it's kind of impressive. And again, nothing has happened, and this is not even guaranteed that he makes it there. Then you could even buy Tom. Like, I would have thought he was like, you could always buy Peyton. I didn't think you could always buy Tom. And it just goes back to Tom was retired for, 45 days, absolutely despised retirement life. And now he's basically signed up for a job after a job that he's not even completely done with.
I know. And maybe part of buying him to do this, paying him, is that it interests him and he might want to do it. But
do you agree with that, though? Like,
what?
Michael and Tiger they wouldn't be able to be bought in this situation. Like, they do other things like Tom does, like brand deals and speaking deals.
Right,
but to commit like this is a pretty big commitment when you're on his and their level, right?
Yeah, I mean, I asked you before we started recording this, is Tom gonna last longer on this 10-year contract than John Gruden did on his in terms of really calling games? So it's hard to know exactly what truly the level of commitment from Tom is today.
You don't think he's a guarantee you don't think it's guaranteed that he at minimum calls a season of games?
I don't think I think he does. Let me just say that. But I can't. Contracts for you that are at least a year away from being fulfilled, to me, are just, I don't quite know what to make of them. Now, the reason you would say yes, he fulfills the whole thing, is part of what was said on the deal is Brady will pair up with Kevin Burkhardt on the biggest NFL games. He will also serve as an ambassador for the sports network, taking part in promotional activities. So also he will work with Burkhardt on quote unquote the biggest NFL games. Does that mean Fox just has the biggest NFL games? Is that just a casual line? Or does that mean Tom will do like 7 games a year? Because when you say the biggest NFL games, are you saying we're Fox, this is just the number one crew, we get the biggest NFL games? That might be what he's saying. Or he might be saying, well, the biggest games are the games that Tom will do.
See, I think the way the fans read it is like he's doing Giants Cowboys week 4.
How do you read that? Well, Giants Cowboys would qualify. But hey,
they get but Fox gets the 125, gets all the games all season.
I get that. That may be what he's saying, but maybe he's not saying that. I have a hard time seeing Tom Brady doing 17 weeks, 18 weeks of football, right, for the next decade. That's
you interpret it, I think, differently than all of normal people that are just assuming he's going to just be doing the full slate of games like he's Joe Buck or Troy Aikman.
I wonder.
Tony Romo.
I wonder if part of this deal is Tom. Here's the thing: if you think you might want to do this, if you say no, we're going to go like try and pay Sean Payton, and then the door will be closed because we're going to sign him to a 10-year contract. So if you think you want to do this, let's sign this deal. And then whenever we'll hold the spot for you, but you got to commit. We'll hold the spot, but you got to commit. Because if you don't commit, then we're going to go get Sean Payton or we're going to give Drew Brees, whatever. Derek Papa texted me today. He's like, who has the Super Bowl this year is Fox. if you were Fox, would you put Brady in the Super Bowl broadcast this year if he's not playing in the game? And my answer to that is yes. Yes, I would.
To call the game.
To call the game. Now, you might put him in there as a third member of the booth, like with Greg Olsen, but this goes to we were talking about
they haven't announced that Greg Olson's doing this.
No, but whatever. Somebody's going to be doing it, right?
Yeah.
And that person, presumably, their question is going to be, so I'm just a placeholder for Tom. But the reason I said yes is this goes back to you asked me beforehand, before we started, like if Tom did a game, would that not be one of the highest rated games ever? And the answer is yes. But imagine if Tom's first game is the Super Bowl against, maybe it's a team he just played. Maybe it's two teams that he's played, right?
Yeah.
So that would feel like that's a splashy way to kind of start getting your money, because you don't get the Super Bowl again for another 3 years.
Maybe 4 now. Isn't NBC, CBS, ABC?
ABC, yeah, it's 4-year rotation.
I think you, who've just been doing this longer, read it differently than 95. I think if you just polled 95% of people that said Tom Brady and Fox, they think he's calling every game in the season. That's what they think. You don't think that's like the conventional wisdom out there of what just people saw the headline? I mean, you're
asking me what I think people think? Yes, yeah. That's what I think people think. Well, and that might be right. I'm not saying it's not right. I didn't even think it until I read you that line just now. I didn't hear how he said it, right? So I don't know if that could just mean Fox has the biggest games every week and Tom will be calling them. That could be what he's saying.
Yeah.
But he could also be saying, yeah, Tom, because when you say he'll also serve as an ambassador, he'll do some promotional activities.
Well, I'm paying you $37 million.
Well, but that makes sense. Like you said, what does it cost to get Tom to come talk to your company? If you're Tito, you want Tito Beverage wants Tom to come talk, and Devin from Tito's and Haberman and Middlekauff, we're all there in Austin together to watch Tom talk. What would he pay Tom for that appearance?
Yeah.
$1 million? More?
I mean, for an hour? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, expensive. So when it's like, hey, now you're our guy, and we're just going to have an exclusive partnership agreement, now.
Yeah, like, hey, Tom, once a month you're going to go on our biggest show, which is Coward. And he's like, yeah, it's part of it. We have some different stipulations like Troy used to do, but Troy probably had a little more juice to say, no, he wasn't making as much money. You pay a guy $37.5 million. Again, Tom can say no to stuff, but you do have access to the guy, right?
Also,
he's never made $37.5 million to play quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, part of that is his own doing, right? Like Eli Manning, Matt Stafford, he hasn't made as much as Drew Brees. Like he chose to take less. In business, if you're Tom, like I think part of this was eye-opening. Like, that's a lot of money for something that you don't really even know what he's committing to. Even beside the games, right? Like, obviously, he costs more than Troy Aikman or Tony Romo, even though he's never cost a game. We agree there, right? Just in a vacuum. Like, if you want to get Tom Brady to call your games, the power that would be for Fox, he's worth more than those guys, right? Like, if you're Tom, the negotiating, if that's all I was going to do, you can't ever ask me to do Coward. You can't ever ask me, call me up for the draft. I'm just going to do your games, and I'll do the playoffs. It would start at like $25 million, probably. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the going rate? Well, Troy Aikman's the best in the business, been doing this forever, is making 19. Tom's like, well, I'm Tom fucking Brady, 28. It's like, well, Tom, okay, what if we put on another 10 and we get you for this, this, and this?
And it could be we're going to do the next, another edition of there's going to be a Tom Brady documentary we put together that we'll partner with you on. Maybe we'll partner with you on a movie.
You want to get creative? Like you want to do some stuff? You want to have, why not this guy? How about the Tom Brady, like Gruden football camp? Like you talk to the top 5 quarterbacks. Do you think how easy that would be to throw on like Fox Sports 1?
Right.
Tom Brady with the top 5 quarterbacks at 50 years old, sits down with CJ Stroud. Obviously, it would be in a couple years. Can you imagine how many people would pay attention to that?
Right.
And if you're Tom, like, that kind of gets his juices going too. Like he gets to throw with them. He gets to sit down, talk some ball with them. It's an easy one. It's a BP fastball for football guys because it doesn't really feel like they come out to Miami, Florida, like they used to go to FCC. We'll build you a little room to bullshit with. You could fucking bring in Gronk and Edelman. It's such a, I would bet something like that because I would want to do that. And I bet I could see Tom like, hey, we would love to integrate you some way in the draft. We don't need you watching all the players. How about just mess with the 5 quarterbacks? I feel like that would get his juices going. Hell, why not go play one of them play golf? Go play 9 holes with them. We'll film it.
Yeah.
You guys just talk ball. I mean, you and I have already put together content for Tom and the team. That would work.
It would work. Well, a lot of stuff with Tom would work, right? And that's why I love this deal, is because Tom Brady's one of the greatest sportsmen that we've ever had in this country, and keeping him in our, around sports. A part of you worries, like, Tom retires, he goes to ownership, you never see one of the greatest of all time again, and that's not going to be the case with him.
I think one thing that he's probably seen through Peyton is, like, the world now, and you and I are lucky, the timing of our lives, like, we've kind of living through this and we've built a business around it, is that, like, you can, like, be creative. Your brand, we all can partner up and make money. Like, you see Peyton just kind of got creative with the football stuff and just doing different things, throwing out ideas with Eli, and just going to, like, put the stick 'em on with Biletnikoff, just doing just random shit that I bet those were Peyton's ideas. Like, Tom, just fucking hit us with some ideas. What do you want to do? We'll send you the crew. It'll get 1 million fucking views on YouTube in 24 hours. That'll pay for it. What do you want to do? That to me probably wasn't as much happening. It was much harder. Like, where would you even put it in 1996, right? Or 2005? Now it's like, you tell us, Tom.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback idea would not only work, again, if Tom was interested in it, I think it would be sweet. Don't you? Like, Thursday, the 4 Thursdays leading up to the draft, 7:00 at night, Fox Sports 1, Tom sits down with the top, this Thursday, that next Thursday.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
It would be.
You could even get Gruden involved.
By then, maybe.
You never know.
I just want Tom. More Tom, the better.